Good evening, dear viewers. This is All 24 Nightly News broadcasting live from Algiers. I'm your host, Karim Zachary, and up next are the latest headlines. African Union sets 15-day deadline for Niger coup leaders. UN demands unconditional release of Bazoum, and EU suspends supports and cooperation with Niamey. Also coming up, Burkina Faso's transitional president seeks new partnerships, backs Russian operation in Ukraine, and eyes nuclear plant collaboration with Russia. Also ahead, Rapid Support Forces commander calls for army leadership change amid ongoing clashes in Khartoum, and Sudanese foreign ministry seeks solutions for negotiations in Jeddah. And Russian strikes hit military targets in Dnipro with high-precision weapons. Iskander missiles cause damage and injuries, and Russian army thwarts Ukrainian counteroffensives near Liman. Hello again, and thank you for joining us. First up in our news, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune and Benin President Patrice Talon had a telephone conversation ahead of the ECOWAS extraordinary meeting on Niger. Both leaders expressed their firm commitment to restoring constitutional order in Niger and reinstating President Mohamed Bazoum, the legitimate head of state. In the same context, the African Union has issued a 15-day ultimatum to Niger's military leaders, urging them to reinstate the country's government. This ultimatum comes as coup leaders hold discussions with senior civil servants on governing the nation, while the United States and the European Union threaten sanctions against the regime. The African Union Peace and Security Council expressed deep concern over the alarming resurgence of coups undermining democracy and stability on the continent. The AU demands the soldiers return immediately and conditionally, to their barracks and restore constitutional authority within the specified time frame. The UN Security Council, US State Department, and African Union jointly condemned the detention of ousted President Mohamed Bazoum. They demand the immediate and unconditional release of the president, his family, and government members. Here's Osama Ayadi with more.
The United Nations Security Council didn't hold back, fiercely condemning what they saw as an unconstitutional power grab in Niger. They demanded the immediate and unconditional release of ousted President Mohamed Bazoum, his family, and members of his government, leaving no room for negotiation.
We want to reiterate here the appeal of the Secretary General in terms of the need to release him the soonest possible.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and US Secretary of State Antony Blinken echoed the call of Bazoum's release, standing firm on the urgent need to restore democratic order in the country, which had been a beacon of relative stability and democracy in the region.
I spoke yesterday with President Bazoum. I don't know exactly where he is, but he was detained. He told me he was well, but he told me that the situation was very serious. And that is the reason why I made today a very strong appeal, not only for him to be immediately released, but not only that, for the democratic institutions to be reestablished.
We are united in condemning the actions that have taken place in Niger, calling for the immediate release of President Bazoum, calling for the immediate restoration of the democratic order in Niger.
The coup leaders didn't hesitate to declare General Abdurrahman Tiani as the new head of state, marking the 7th military takeover in West and Central Africa in less than 3 years. Niger joins Mali, Burkina Faso, and Chad as the latest country in the Sahel region to fall under military rule, a trend that's raising alarms across the globe. Now all eyes are on Niger, hoping for a swift return to democratic governance and an end to the unsettling trend of military takeovers in the region.
In response to the military coup in Niger, the European Union has immediately suspended its financial support and security cooperation with the country. The EU, along with the United States and other nations, is demanding the unconditional release of Bazoum and the reinstatement of democratic order. Niger, a significant recipient of Western aid and a crucial partner for the EU in managing irregular migration from sub-Saharan Africa, is affected by these actions. Additionally, the EU has limited a number of troops in Niger for a military training mission.
In addition to the immediate cessation of budget support, all cooperation actions in the domain of security are suspended indefinitely with immediate effect.
The European Union also declared it would not recognize Niger's military leaders who staged the recent coup and suspended security cooperation with the terrorism-affected country. EU's Borrell also expressed readiness to support future decisions by West Africa's regional bloc, potentially including sanctions. Nigerian President Bola Tinubu announced a meeting of West African leaders in Abuja on Sunday to address the coup.
The EU does not recognize and will not recognize the authorities resulting from the coup in Niger.
Also in related matter, Libyan Foreign Minister Najla Al-Mangoush conveyed worries about the security situation in Niger and its potential impact on Libya and the broader region. During a phone call with U.S. State Department advisor Derek Chollet, both officials reaffirmed the U.S. consistent stance on Libya. U.S. Special Envoy to Libya Richard Noland expressed his country's support for UN mediation in Libya. A joint statement from the U.S. along with France, Germany, Italy and Britain reiterated their backing for the efforts of UN Special Representative Abdoulaye Pathili. The aim is to engage all Libyan institutions and stakeholders, address contested aspects of the electoral framework, secure a comprehensive political agreement, and ensure a level playing field for all candidates, paving the way for elections. During the Second African-Russian Summit in St. Petersburg, Algerian Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman met with Mali's head of state and transitional leader, Issami Guira. The meeting emphasized Algeria's dedication to enhancing ties with Mali, promoting peace, security, stability, and supporting the country's development. Both leaders discussed various fields of bilateral relations and explored ways to collaborate jointly in the regional context. In recent statements, Burkina Faso's transitional president seeks new partnerships, supports Russian special operation in Ukraine, and expresses interest in Russian-built nuclear power plants.
We need power generation. This is an important item on our agenda. If possible, we would like to build a small nuclear power plant in our country. We are strategically located because we are in the heart of the region West Africa, and in general there is shortages of energy in this region. I believe that if Russia can gain a foothold in this region, it will be able to generate energy for the entire region.
During a meeting with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, Russian President Vladimir Putin pledged complete support for South Africa's presidency of the BRICS group this year. Putin expressed confidence that the upcoming BRICS summit in Johannesburg, scheduled for August 22nd to the 24th, will be held at the highest level.
We interact closely and constructively within the framework of this organization in order to deepen strategic partnership between its 5 countries as a whole. I'm confident that the meeting you are attending now will be held at the highest level. We will do our best to help and support you.
Delma Rousseff, the head of the BRICS Bank, hails Algeria's potential accession as a significant step. She highlights the country's vast natural and human resources, qualifying it as a crucial addition to the BRICS group. The United Nations Committee Against Torture urged Spain to conduct an immediate and impartial investigation into the events in Melilla, which resulted in the death of 37 people and left dozens of African migrants missing while attempting to cross the Spanish-Moroccan border on June the 24th last year. The committee expressed regret over the failure to take necessary legal measures to prosecute those responsible, warning that this could lead to further violations against asylum seekers.
The United Nations Committee Against Torture deeply regrets the failure to conduct an effective investigation into the actions of the security forces at the Melilla fence on the 24th of June 2022, and calls on the Spanish state to urgently launch an impartial investigation and take the necessary measures so that similar events do not happen again. The committee also expresses its concern about the continuing violent expulsions affecting asylum seekers and call for greater guarantees to enable them to have fair and effective procedures.
Youth in Tenerife, the largest of the Spanish Canary Islands, joined an annual demonstration organized by the Canary Islands Organization for Friendship with the Sahrawi people. Solidarity activists gathered to condemn Moroccan occupation's crimes, the plundering of natural resources in Western Sahara, and violations of Sahrawi civilians' rights in the occupied territories. In Africa still, Sudanese army rivals fighting escalates as Jeddah peace talk fail. Mohammed Hamdati Dagalo apologizes and calls for army leadership replacement in a TV address. Salman Asib reports.
The Sudanese peace talks ended tragically, sparking fighting in Khartoum and beyond, as the Sudanese armed forces clashed with the Rapid Support Forces, despite previous negotiation efforts by Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo.
The intransigence of the rebel forces and their non-compliance with the implementation of their obligations signed by them is the reason behind the stalled talks in Jeddah, which prompted the delegation of the Sudanese armed forces to return to the homeland. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs affirmed the delegation's readiness to return to Jeddah as soon as Saudi Arabia and American mediators managed to overcome the obstacles that prevented the continuation of the talks and the desire to reach a fair agreement that paves the way for discussing post-war issues.
For his part, the Sudanese paramilitary leader, General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, made his first on-camera appearance since the outbreak of fighting. He called for the replacement of army leadership and apologized to the Sudanese people for the ongoing conflict's impact. In addition, Dagalo's call for new army leadership stems from his accusation that the current command is influenced by leaders from the former regime, adding complexity to the situation.
First, I want to apologize to every Sudanese man and woman, old and young, for the tragedies of this terrible war that has been forced upon us by the remnants of the old regime, the coup leaders. Secondly, our message to our brothers in the Sudanese armed forces. If you want a quick solution to the war, then there needs to be a change in leadership. Change these leaders.
The aftermath of the peace talks collapse witnessed alarming violence in South and East Khartoum. Crucial military and political institutions, including the Sudanese Army General Headquarters, the Presidential Palace, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, became targets of the escalating clashes. Hence, Sudan finds itself at a critical crossroads with an urgent need for swift resolution and lasting peace.
To the Middle East now, the Palestinian Foreign Ministry strongly condemned aggressions against Palestinians and called on the international community to exert pressure on the Zionist occupation. They demanded the dismantling of organized and armed terrorist settlers' militias and the severing of their resources. Additionally, the Foreign Ministry urged the inclusion of settlers' organizations and their terrorist elements, including hawkish ministers Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich on international terror lists. This move aims to hold them accountable for their actions and curb their activities, perpetuating violence and unrest in the region. Russia's defense ministry confirmed launching strikes on military targets in Dnipro on Friday night using high-precision weapons. The Ukrainian General Staff countered, stating that Russian forces employed 2 Iskander ballistic missiles, damaging residential buildings and infrastructure, and injuring 9 people in the missile strikes. Meanwhile, the Russian army declared thwarting 6 Ukrainian attempts to regain lost areas near Liman in eastern Ukraine.
In the evening of July 28, the armed forces of the Russian Federation attacked the command post of the armed forces of Ukraine with high-precision weapons in the city of Dnipro. The designated object was hit. The objective of the strike has been achieved. During the day, the armed forces of Ukraine continued attempts to conduct offensive operations in Donetsk, South Donetsk, and Krasnoliman directions.
In a similar context, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visited special forces at advanced positions near Bakhmut, a city previously seized by Russian forces. The visit took place amidst ongoing high tensions in the region. Photos and videos released by Zelensky captured the meeting with the troops, where he expressed praise and unwavering support for Ukraine's special operations forces.
Пане підполковнику, вітаю, дай Бог здоров'я, перемоги вам. Не знаю, діти є вже? Так. Ну і все, нехай діти. Народ України небагато.
The Ukrainian people don't hear a lot about the special operation forces. You are in the hottest sections, but we don't talk about your work publicly. But I want to tell you that everybody knows who you guys in the special operation forces are and what you do. People know that you are heroes and many things depend on you. You are always in the first line in the front. Thank you for this and for your service. Glory to Ukraine.
Слава Україні! Героям слава!
Polish Prime Minister warns of a potential threat as a group of 100 Wagner Group soldiers reportedly moves closer to the Belarusian city of Grodno, near the Polish border. He sees this as part of a hybrid attack orchestrated by Belarus, expressing concerns that the Wagner soldiers might act as Belarusian border guards or attempt infiltration into Poland.
Now the situation is becoming ever more dangerous. We have information that more than 100 Wagner Group are moving in the direction of the Swalki Gap, not far from Grodno in Belarus. Why are they doing it? Certainly, this is a step in direction of further hybrid attacks on Polish territory. Most likely they will be disguised as the Belarusian border guard and help illegal migrants get to the Polish territory and destabilize Poland. Presumably, they will also try to infiltrate Poland. Pretending to be illegal migrants, they will try to enter Poland, and this poses additional threats.
Do Polski przejść, przeniknąć, a to stwarza dodatkowe ryzyka.
On Saturday, Russia announced a ban on rice exports following a similar decision by India, the largest global exporter of the crop. These successive steps have led to price hikes and exacerbated the ongoing global food supply crisis, raising concerns over potential delays in rice availability. The Indian government's ban on non-basmati rice exports to lower prices and ensure domestic supply has caused widespread repercussions. Production issues due to El Niño and monsoon-related floods were among the reasons for the restrictions.
The ban must help securing supplies of Indian consumers and reduce the rising prices in the local market.
In addition, Russia has also implemented a ban on rice exports until December 31st, 2023 to stabilize its domestic market. However, humanitarian aid and international transit transportation remain exceptions.
The government has imposed a temporary ban on the export of rice and rice groats. The restriction will be in effect until December 31st, 2023. The decision was made to maintain stability in the domestic market. The ban will not affect the member countries of the Eurasian Economic Union. South Ossetia and Abkhazia, rice and rice groats could be sent abroad for humanitarian aid, as well as within the framework of international transit transportation.
The UAE, for its part, has followed suit with a temporary 4-month ban on rice exports and re-exports, including rice from India, effective July 20th. All rice varieties are covered, requiring companies to obtain an export permit from the UAE Ministry of Economy.
The ban includes all types of rice. For instance, black rice, milled rice fully or partially, and broken rice. The companies that are willing to export or re-import rice must provide a request to the Ministry of Economy to get a permission to export abroad.
Economists warn of potential global food supply strain, and the Indian diaspora may have to adapt by seeking alternative rice sources domestically or from other countries. Panic buying among the diaspora in the United States caused some shortages, though assurances of ample supply have been given for now. The restrictions on rice exports have also raised concerns about global rice prices. For more news making headlines around the globe, let's turn to the news in brief by Sofiane Kantouri this time.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said in Brisbane on Saturday that US will help Australia produce guided multiple launcher rocket system by 2025. After the two nations' top officials pledged to engage with China, but also oppose it if it needed. Protesters and police clashed in Peru's capital Lima on Saturday during a protest to demand President Dina Boluarte's resignation and new elections. Female indigenous protesters and police were seen pushing and hitting each other as tear gas canisters were kicked down the street. Philippine authorities are reporting the death toll from the sinking of an overcrowded passenger boat in Laguna de Bay of Rizal province on Thursday has risen to 27. The accident occurred as Typhoon Doksuri passed through the region, bringing strong winds and torrential rain. Efforts in Syria to contain wildfires continued on Saturday, while firefighters and helicopters worked to spray the blazes. Wildfires have raged in Syria's coastal region since Wednesday, with many temperatures affecting many countries around the Mediterranean. Sri Lanka invited Japan to resume investment in projects including power, roads, and ports, as the Japanese Foreign Minister wrapped up the first high-level visit to the crisis-hit country in nearly 4 years. Sri Lanka Foreign Minister Ali Sabri said his country was seeking Japanese investment in sectors such as power, infrastructure, and dedicated investment zones, as well as in the region and digital economies. The car carrier burning off the Dutch coast since Tuesday is carrying nearly 500 electric vehicles. Ship charter company K-Line said on Friday significantly more than 25 initially reported by the Coast Guard.
With this, we reach the end of our program. For more updates, visit our social media platforms. Thank you for watching and join us tomorrow for more news. Take care.